Hey friends, welcome back to your own channel for yet another exciting project. Today's video going to be very special as it's focused on solving a problem which you might face in your daily life. Without keeping you further guessing, let me show you what we are going to do it today. So let me show you my desktop. It's so clumsy and unorganized. I kept on working on these files most of the time, and then I keep on storing them on desktop without really organizing them to their respective folders. And I just procrastinate to put them into their desired folder. Does this happens to you as well? Please let me know in the comment section. If yes, I have a plan for you today. We are going to solve this issue and we are going to run an automation script using Python to organize these files which are there lying on desktop. Sounds interesting? Keep watching. Before we begin, massive thank you to all the people who has seen my last video and for the amazing response you have given me on that video. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe my channel and hit like button. If you think that this video is relevant and will be helpful to your friends, please do share this video to your friends. This gives me immense motivation. Okay, so let me show you what we are going to do today in this quickie fast forward. There you go. Let me take you to the Python file straight away where we are going to start working on it. Okay, before we begin writing any code, I would like to give you a broad structure of how we are going to attempt this problem. So our objective is whatever files are there on desktop, whenever we run this Python code file, it will organize these files to the respective folder on desktop. Now there are many ways and many logic on which we can do it. Okay, I have framed an algorithm and basically the flow of work for this particular project which I wanted to show you to give you a broad structure, and let me quickly pull out that for you. This is a typical flowchart which I prepared for our desktop organizer project, which basically organizes all the files on the desktop. This is how the structure goes. So what we'll do is we'll first see the entire desktop and we'll check the each file or the constituent member available on the desktop. So we'll see each folder and each file available on the desktop. If you see that the member is a folder or kind of it's not a file, we'll not do anything because that's part of already available folder there. So we are not going to touch it. But if it's a file, and then we are going to segregate all this file based on its file extension. So what we're going to do first is we are going to create a list wherein based on the extension of the file, we are going to store the file path of each PDF file there on desktop in that list. Once we have this list available, in the next process, what we are going to do is we are going to create folder for each of these extensions. So now we know that we have total, say, 5 different type of extensions file available on our desktop. For each of the extension, we are going to create folders. Say, for example, we have a PDF files as a folder. We have Word files as a folder, we have an Excel file as a folder, and so on. Now, once we create these folders, we are going to store all the files which are having this extension into that particular folder. So from desktop, we are going to move this file to their respective folder, and this folder will still lie on desktop. Now, this is one simple way we can organize file. There are multiple other ways in which you can also organize file. Okay, we are back on our Python file. Let's begin. So first step first, let's see what's there on our desktop. For the entire project purpose, we are going to use two libraries. OS, that is operating system. So we are going to call import OS. We're also going to call import shuttle. Now shuttle library is basically very useful when it comes to copy and pasting file and in fact moving files. So we're going to use these two libraries. Let me import both of them. Okay, first step. Let's check what's there on the desktop, right? And for that purpose, let's call our OS library. So we're calling OS, and from OS, we are calling path. right? And from path, we are calling expand user, basically to get a path of desktop, and you can simply paste this syntax to get the desktop. Once we do that, and if I execute this, this is going to give me path of desktop. Now, this is the path of desktop, which I'm going to use it more frequently. So I'm storing this as an object called desktop underscore path, right? And let me store it and let me show you if I run desktop path, going to get this result now. Now I just have the desktop path, but I still don't know what all files are there on the desktop. So let me see that what all files are available on desktop. So I can again call OS, and from OS I can ask list directory. And once I give this path, that is basically the desktop path, which will going to give me all the files or the folders or all the constituent members on the desktop right now. So let me do that. As you can see, there's so many files available along with the folders on my desktop path, right? Now, basically I want file path for each of the file which is available on the desktop. So let me show you how we can create file path. So basically we have the file name here, right? And if we just add on the desktop path, this file name, that's the file path for each of the individual files. So let me show you how does this work. So for example, if I do os.path and if I say os.path join, and then I join two things. One is the desktop path, that is my standard path desktop. And then if I give this file name, that will become my file path. So for example, if I this boxplot.png, let me copy this file name here and let me put it here. So if I do this, this is going to give me the file path for boxplot.png file. Now I want this file path for each of the files. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a list based on the extension. So for each of the extension, we are segregating the files and we are storing this file path under each of the extension folders, right? So let me show you how we are going to do it, right? So let me start writing the code in one snippet or one cell rather. Let me say, or let me just pull out this straight away. Let me copy this desktop.path and I say that define desktop path and let me paste it here. This will be our desktop path that we created. Next, we are going to create a dictionary where we are going to store all the file paths based on their extension, right? So let me say create a dictionary to store the file paths by file extensions, or file extension rather. And I'll say this will be a blank dictionary. So I'll say files by extension is equal to, and this will be a blank dictionary, right? And further, let's see how we can loop through each of the file, right? And see that if it's a folder, we need to ignore it. If it's a file, we need to have the file path. And based on its extension, we need to store the file path and along with their extension in this file by extension list, right? So we need to run it in a loop. So we'll say that loop through all the files on the desktop, right? So we say that for file name in os.list directory, and we are going to give the desktop path. So what it will do, it will create like os.list directory desktop path. That's basically this particular result. So it will going to go through each of the member constituent on the desktop, like each of the file and folder available on the desktop, right? It will iterate through each of them. And then we really want to see that we'll create a file path. So we'll say that file path is nothing but same thing here, right? So we're going to copy this. We say that file path is nothing but os.path.join desktop path. And instead of one particular file name, we're going to give this file name, right? So we'll say that file name. So it will create file path dynamically for each of the file through which we are going to iterate. So it will iterate through one file at a time. So it will start from like say IPYMB checkpoints, APY PNG, greengandhi.chrome link, and so on. So it will create file path dynamically for each of the file, right? And then further, we'll check if it's a file, right? So why? Because if it's a folder, we're going to ignore it based on our logic. So we say that if os.path.is file, now this will give me whether it's a file or folder. It will give me Boolean value, true and false. And what I'm going to do is basically going to give this file path. Now, if it's true only, then we'll move forward. If it's false, that means if it's a folder, we're going to ignore it, right? So that's why we put this sign. And then we say that get the file extension. So we're going to get the file extension. So basically what we'll do from file path. So we'll say that extract the file extension. So we'll say file extension is equal to os.path.split text. So we're going to split the text of the file name, right? And we're going to pick first part from there. Now, essentially going to do, let me show you. So like if I select just this part, os.path.split text, and let me copy paste it for you here. And let me put any file name. For example, let's just take this file name, boxplot.png, right? And let me put it here. Let me put this under in comma, and let me run this for you. So basis on this dot extension, it's gonna separate the two strings. So if I do that, it's gonna give me boxplot as one member and PNG as another member as part of tuple. Now we really want the first part of it because that's the extension which we wanted. So if I just call one out of it, which will give me just the PNG, and that's what really I want as a file extension. So when I do apply this os.path.split text and provide file name dynamically and call the first member out of the tuple, that's going to give me the extension, and that I'm going to store under file extension, right? Okay. Moving further, once we get the file extension here, right, what we really wanted to do is to add it to the dictionary. So we say that add file extension and file path to the dictionary that we created, right? So we say that if file extension not in existing file extension, because this will go in loop and there are multiple files of the same extension. So we do not want to create a duplicate extension. So that's why I put this rider that if file extension not in files by extension, right? And only then create files by extension, and within files by extension, you create a list, and that list will start with the file extension. So for each file extension, you create a list within the dictionary, right? So for like dictionary, this was our blank dictionary, right? Within the blank dictionary, it will have a key like say PDF, and within PDF, it will create this blank list. And then the say next extension is Word. So it will have a doc file, and within doc, it will create again a blank list. And for each of the extension like this, it's going to create this list. And within this list, we are going to save the file path of each file which is there on the desktop, right? So that's why we are creating this blank list for each of the file extension, right? So we are saying that file by extension, that's our dictionary. Within that, create a key under name file extension. And for each of the key, create the blank list, right? Once we create the blank list, we say that for each of this blank list, files by extension, and we say that file extension, for each of the file extension, save the file path, append basically the file path, which is in subject. So it will iterate to each of the file. It will store file path based on the file extension. It will create a dictionary simultaneously. Within dictionary, it will create a separate key for each of the extension. And under that extension, it will create a blank list. In that list, it's going to store all the file paths which belong to only that extension. So this will clearly segregate all the files and its path based on its extension. Now, we really did not touch any of the file right now. We have just segregated its path. So it's give us kind of a structure to operate if we really wanted to move it, right? So once it's done, let me run this file for you. Or, okay, once it's done, let me run the cell for you, right? The cell is run, and let me show you the file by extension dictionary, what's in there now. So if I put this files by extension, this is a dictionary, and let me execute this. So this will really have for like PNG files. So PNG is a key. Under PNG key, we have all these files along with their file paths. So we have this many file. Then we have a link as a folder. It's kind of a shortcut. So we have 3 shortcuts here. And for each of the shortcut, the file path is available. We similarly have a JPG as an extension. And for JPG, we have file separate. We have WFP. Now this is my YouTube projects basically. And this is stored, all the files are stored under this particular extension. And so on for all the different type of extension which is available on my desktop, right? So this is what we have right now. But if you really see our desktop for a moment, it's still the same. Nothing has been moved. But we have this structure to operate with. So in the next step, what we're going to do, based on this dictionary, we're going to move all this file and we're going to create folder for each of the extension, right? So let me add a couple of cells for us. And let me take you to the second part of it, which is really moving the files based on their extension, right? So let me start writing the code. So let me say that create a folder for each file extension and move the files to its respective folder, right? And how I'm going to do it, I'm saying that for file extension and file paths in file by extension and items, right? So when you know that file by extension is basically a dictionary. So if you do file by extension, this was your dictionary, right? Now, if you do dot items, it's going to give you the key and the values, right? So it's going to give you dictionary items. It's in this format. So you have a key and you also have all the values under that key, right? So we're going to call the file extension, so which is basically this file extension, and file paths, all the values under that key, right? So we are calling 2 values in 4. We are saying that file extension and all the file paths in files by extension dot items, right? So we say that for each of this pair, right, we are going to create folder name, right? So we say that folder name, and we're going to use like formatted strings. Now formatted strings is, since we wanted to create a folder name for each of the extension dynamically, so we are going to use formatted strings. So we say that formatted strings F, and this will be under curly braces. We're going to give file extension, right? Now within the file extension, we really do not want a dot, right? So we want like excluding dot. So that's why we are calling all the entries after or starting with first index location, right? So we really don't want 0th index location. That's why we are ignoring 0 here, right? And we want it in uppercase, and let's put it upper. If you want your folder to be displayed in lowercase, you can put it lower. So I really prefer uppercase, so that's why I put it dot upper here, and then I say files. So this is basically format string. Now let me show you what this does. So if we do like file extension, right, and let me show you file extension currently. So currently file extension, the value which is there is .link. I want my folder name to be link folders or LNK folders, right? So what do I do is when I do one is to all the members till the end, we are basically going to ignore this dot part of it. So when you do it, it's going to give you link. And when you do it dot upper, it's going to give you LNK in upper cases, right? And basically when you do like this, for example, let me show you, it's going to give you this string called link files, right? Now, if you want space, you can give space here, right? So if I give space here, it's going to give me link files. And this will be the name of my folder, which Python gonna create for all the links, right? So this will be the link folder, right? And this will be the name of that folder, right? And I also wanted to have folder path to move the file. So I'll say that folder path. A folder path is basically nothing but os.path.join. Now this folders will be in desktop. If you want this folder to be somewhere else, you can put it. You just need to slightly change the code. But right now I'm keeping it to desktop path, right? So I'm going to create desktop path, and then I need to have a folder name, right? So that will give me the folder path. So basically the desktop path and the folder name which we created, that will give me the folder path. Now, once I created this folder path and folder name, what I'm really going to do is to create the folder, right? If it doesn't exist. Now, since we know that we are going to have a similar type of file, so we really don't want to create a duplicate folders every time. So we really wanted to create unique folder all the time. So if folder for that particular extension is already available, we really don't want to create that folder again. So that's why we want to run this loop. So we say that if not, right, os.path at os.path, right, dot exists. So if the folder path, which is already exist, right, if it's already exist, right, and so if it's already exist, do nothing. If not exist, then only execute this loop, right? That's why we use if not. It's not just if, right? So we say that os.makedir. So this will make the directory on the particular path, and we'll say folder path. Folder underscore path. So it will create a folder, or it will create a directory for this folder path, right? Once we created the path of that folder, we really wanted to move all the files which is available under that particular key, all these files for which path is available, which you wanted to move it to respective folder, right? So it's about moving the files to respective folders, right? And this is how we do it. So we again run it loop. We say that for file path in file paths, right? So file path is in the subject. So it will iterate to each of this file path, which is available under this list, right? And for each of the file paths, we say that we use this shuttle library, right? We say that shuttle.move, and this will move the files. And we say that file path in the subject and to the folder path. So it will move this file, existing file, which is there on the desktop, and it will move to the new folder which we created. So it will go from existing file path to the new folder path, and it will move, right? So this is all about it. Now, if I run this cell, it will practically move my desktop completely. So you know the current state of the desktop. This is what our desktop look like. Now, hold on for a second till we run this cell. Now, let me run this cell for you. And once we run this cell and go back to the desktop, voila. Can you see this? The desktop is neatly organized into different folders. So if you see that this is the docs file, so basically the document file, so all the Word file which was there on the desktop is been clearly organized under this folder. If you see this IPYNB file, if you open it, all the Jupyter Notebook files are now being organized under this folder. If you see the JPG files, again, all the JPG files has been organized under this folder. If you see the link files, right, so all the 3 links which is now organized under this folder. And similarly goes with PNG file, the PPT file, the WFP file, the XLS file, and so on. You can organize like that, right? So great. We have now the working program basically, which we can use it to create automation, and you need to practically open this file and run all the cell whenever you wish to. You can automate that as well if you want to do it at particular time frequency, which will give you nice organized desktop just like this. I hope you like this video. I'll see you in more interesting content in my next video. Till then, see you. Bye-bye.
Please like, share and subscribe my channel. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.